He's an NFL insider. We try to get him on every couple of weeks. Jordan Schultz is joining us in studio. Don't forget Greg Cosell, top of next hour. Good to have you in today on a Thursday. A lot going on. Eagles hosting Washington tonight. Very tough spot for a rookie quarterback on short rest. We'll get to that in a second. We just talked about Harbaugh. And I do think they remind me of the Chiefs. Coach, quarterback, pass rush, defense, little light on wide receivers. Do people in the league think the Chargers are for real?
100%, and it's all about Jim Harbaugh. I mean, this is the exact same roster, Colin, essentially as last year. And the results are totally different. Last year, they were basically 25th, 26th, 27th in every defensive category. Now, to your point, they're number one in the NFL in defense. It's not only Jim Harbaugh, but it's bringing in Jesse Minter, his defensive coordinator. It's bringing in Shane Day, who was gone for a year. Justin Herbert said to him before the season, this is the guy I need back in my corner. And I talked to Shane about 2 weeks ago. I said, what's the difference now? Previously, he said, with Jim, there's a sense of empowerment. There's a sense of do your job. I will delegate to you. And I think Harbaugh, for all the great things he does, and he has wonderful traits as a head coach. Delegating, he did it at San Diego. He did it at Stanford. Yeah. He certainly did it with the Niners and Michigan. He has the ego-less personality enough to say, you do your job, and I don't have to have my hands necessarily on every single thing. Yeah. You've seen the development of Justin Herbert. You've seen the defense, and obviously they're 6-3 firmly in the playoff hunt. What is the ceiling for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 3-0 with Russell Wilson? And his passer rating is 106, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. What's the ceiling? I just love this football team, and I love them because it's old school football with a new twist. It's Russell Wilson diet. It's the Seahawks version of him, but maybe not as much of the read option. And when they went 3 weeks ago and they decided, Colin, they were going to move on from Justin Fields, I was the first one that said, I think it's a mistake. I don't love this move. They were 4-2. It looked like they were in a good position, but Russell Wilson has taken them to a new level. And I go back to the conversation he had with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, one-on-one. They spent multiple hours together, and they really bonded. And I think that's when Russell Wilson became the future of this franchise, at least this season, because Mike Tomlin has always said, if you're a starter, you cannot lose your job if you get injured. They bring Russell Wilson back. You see that moon ball. You see Mike Williams. You see George Pickens, the connection, how accurate he's been. And then also they remind me in some ways of the Lions, where if you look at teams after they play Pittsburgh, there is a level down effect the next week. That's Pittsburgh. That's what they want to do. They're so physical defensively. And it also reminds me of something that Richard Sherman told me once, where he said, with Seattle, we used to tell Russ, just get us to 14, get us to 17. We'll do the rest. That's the sense I get now with this defense, which really to me is the most efficient across the league. Coaching hot seat, bit of a mess in Chicago. Mike McCarthy, it looks like they could be in a soft tank. Doug Peterson's in trouble. So Saleh's already gone. We know that. That was the first one to go. And let's just talk coaching hot seat. We can start with Eberflus. Yeah, I think with Eberflus, remember last year it felt like he might not survive. They end up turning it around. That's what Brian Daboll hopes to do, by the way, with New York. Had that second half surge to maybe, have success and keep his job. And I think he's okay. But in Eberflus's case, this offense last year was 20th in the NFL. Now they're 30th. So they fire Shane Waldron, who was a questionable hire. They spent hours with Cliff Kingsbury in L.A. They could have had him in their building. They go with Waldron. You see the issues they had. They actually had Getsy last year. So when you fire an OC in season, it gives you some time, Colin. It gives you a few weeks. But the offense, to me, is in such disarray. And Caleb is not the same quarterback he was a month ago, because a month ago he was really efficient. He was accurate. He was in the pocket. Now it looks like a total mess. You have players like DJ Moore, star players, saying, I don't really know what's going on here. Eberflus is in a really tough position, because if he's going to turn it around, it's going to have to come to the offensive side. They have not had any success on that side of the ball in a month. And I just don't know what's going to change by switching your offensive coordinator. So I think Chicago, for him to keep his job, has to make the playoffs, and I don't really see a path for that, considering they have the hardest schedule left in the NFL. How about McCarthy? So Jerry Jones has only fired a head coach once in season. One time. That was Jason Garrett about a decade and a half ago. And it was hard for him because he was like a member of the family. Absolutely. And he always said, I never wanted to do that. I almost regretted it. So to fire Mike McCarthy in season at 3-6, I don't really see that. But I do see a team that even before Dak was lost for the season was completely rudderless. I see an owner in Jerry Jones who seems to be very emotional with some of his decision-making in the draft, some of the moves he's made. But with his head coach, that's the one thing he's stuck out. So I don't really know what he's thinking, Jerry Jones. I don't think anybody does. But if I am the Dallas Cowboys and I want to be serious about winning, which they haven't been for decades, you need to really take a look in the eye and look in the mirror and evaluate who you are and who you're not. You're not a good football team. You're not a move or two away. So forget the 3 straight 12-win seasons, Colin. Throw that out the window. You got embarrassed by Green Bay in the playoffs at home. You brought in Mike Zimmer. They had the worst defense in the league after having a top 10 defense 3 years in a row with Dan Quinn. So I'm very concerned about Mike McCarthy, but I'm more concerned about the actual face of the franchise and Jerry Jones.
Winner tonight, Eagles at home against Commanders. Do they win the NFC East?
I like the Eagles at home. I think they do win the division. But to me, the bigger thing here is Jaden Daniels and how Washington has mirrored many of the same things that Philadelphia did in terms of mobile quarterback. And not only that, an accurate quarterback who you can build the franchise around. You saw Jalen Hurts get that big deal. Jaden Daniels is eventually going to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. You have to imagine 3 years down the road. But bigger than that, it's the picture of Dan Quinn, stable head coach, good coordinators, and then you go to the GM, Adam Peters, and then you go to the owner, Josh Harris. The Eagles did that with Sirianni to a degree, Howie Roseman, and Jeffrey Lurie. So, and I think Dan Quinn, to me, is one of the biggest stories in the NFL because he gets fired by Atlanta, he leaves Dallas, and now he's reinvented himself. There was a great story today on ESPN about how he reinvented himself. And I did a story on Dan Quinn 7 years ago, and I asked him, what's your biggest philosophy in coaching? And he said, I want to empower players. I want to create relationships. But he's also reinvented himself, realizing that the formula he had in Atlanta wasn't working anymore. So he went back to the drawing board. He met with Terry Francona, who's the former manager of the Boston Red Sox. They were down 3-0. They ended up beating the Yankees. He's adopted a new formula. I think he's realized it's important to delegate more, and obviously they've had great success.
Yeah, we talked about that as a topic earlier. Dan Campbell's a delegator. Sirianni at his best is more delegator when he meddles with Kellen Moore, did early this season. When he meddled with Shane Steichen, it didn't work. And Jimmy Johnson was more of a walk-around guy. Pete Carroll was. Belichick. I mean, there's a lot of videos on the internet of Belichick with a whistle around practice, just coming in, especially on defense, having an opinion. Jordan Schultz, NFL Insider. Great having you
Thanks,
here.
Colin.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.